So in the earlier video about the sculpting brushes, I gave some quick examples, talked a bit about the Move Elastic, but I thought it deserved its own video because, to be honest, you can't overemphasize enough just how good um, this elastic technology. I think it's based on the old Pixar Kelvin Let's paper from years ago, and a couple of 3D programs implemented it in Blender and a few others. There's kind of a version of it in ZBrush, but it's not really that good. But it was Substance Modeler then that introduced it into VR. Or actually, sorry, it was in Medium, Oculus Medium, that it was first added. And I kind of experienced it then in VR for the first time in Substance Modeler. But it's just unbelievable. It's hard to really, you have to experience it really in VR to appreciate it. It's just such a good tool. Like even the Substance Modeler, it's probably 90% of the time I'm using it for any of the work I'm doing. I'm always using it. It's just that good. You can actually, and I have done, sculpt an entire head from a sphere just with the Move. That's how good it is. So they've actually added it now in Shapelab. So this is just probably one of the best additions now all year. To me anyway, it's just brilliant. It is. There was a regular Move tool, and even regular Move without the elastic properties in VR, it's just way better than the desktop because you have 6 DOF, so you can move it anywhere you like. You're not governed by the screen space, or like in other programs, you have to hold down the modifier key to bring it out directly along the surface. Normals, you can just do it yourself wherever you like. You can even do it, out of sight. So it becomes unbelievably powerful, a Move brush generally in VR for sculpting, because you can see the true in the round silhouette and move it. Just you're moving through VR and you can see the silhouette all the time, and you can move it in any direction from any angle. It's just from infinite angles. It really has to be experienced. It amazes me that there's not more people sculpting in VR. It's just so good. The experience, you just have to experience yourself. But I'm rambling on a bit now. So that was kind of the introduction on why 6DOF and VR, with the Move tool specifically, is so good. But it takes it to the next level then with the elastic. You can see here in the Move brush, that's just the default that was there. And this is elastic, so adds local elasticity for volume preserving, and that's the main thing here as well. It preserves the volume. So with the regular Move, I can drag out here, but as soon as I start to turn, it just flattens out on itself, so it doesn't preserve the volume. So with the elastic Move, it does. It stays, the volume stays, and you can even actually nearly drag it right around back on itself before it starts to flatten out a bit here. And it's just, it will just take it for me anyway. It took my workflow to in a completely different direction. Once you get used to using it, and you can also use it, like on desktop sculpting programs, especially ZBrush is absolutely terrible for this. Like if your Move brush is just even 1 pixel away from the mesh, the whole canvas rotates, and it's just a nightmare. But with this, like, you can use the Move brush right on the edge, so you can see you can even use it to flatten off surfaces. Going right on the edge, you can see the silhouette there is flattened out, and you have your hand here. You're constantly moving around the surface and viewing the silhouette. So the Move brush becomes more than just a simple tool for Move, because of that, because you're able to use it to kind of flatten out. You can use it for tiny movements, and then you can use it for much larger movements in any direction you like. And with that elastic feel to it now, you're gonna preserve the volume. So obviously here we're mesh based here, so you're stretching out the polys. So one of my requests is for an auto kind of an auto remesh as you drag. So every movement here, depending on what you have, your voxel remesh or your dynamic topology set to, every movement here when you release will just remesh. Sort of similar to a snake hook brush, or the tentacle brush as it's called in Shapelab. And that would just bring this again to the next level, because in Substance Modeler it's constantly revoxelizing, so you don't have to worry about the topology breaking like it will here. Now there's ways around, as I showed in the other video. You can just do that yourself with the smooth brush. You can just set smooth. You can just set smooth to a low strength here. So I'm holding down smooth, set the strength down, and then as I move, I'm just going to turn on the wireframe. I can just keep smoothing there on a low setting, and essentially or technically you're doing the same thing as Substance Modeler. It's just you're revoxelizing yourself. But as I said, it'd be great if if you could do this automatically. So that's the Move Elastic. There's also the Elastic Plus, which is more of a global sort of tool. It's much more aggressive. You have an elastic range here. I think it's up around 80 for the default, and it will affect the whole mesh here. You see, it's dragging the whole mesh, but it makes it much more rubbery. And then you can take that down, so the effect isn't as strong across the mesh. So since they added this elastic, I basically don't use the default one anymore. I will use this sometimes for much larger movements, the Plus, but the bread and butter there is going to be the elastic. And another cool feature it has is if you start to drag, you can set the strength up. I'm just going left and right on the primary thumbstick to adjust the strength up and down. So I have the strength set here to 100, and then as I drag out there, it's pulling to a point. And then if I push down on the controller, it's tapering right into an infinitely small point. And similarly, if I push up, it's going to inflate. So now you can see where it's actually inflating the surface. So down into a point and up to inflate. And it's going to drag off when you go up. This is getting bigger, so this is another request I had, that this, rather than this moving out here, I'd like this to it's scaling from the point of the controller, which means that this is moving out towards the center of this all the time. So it'd be better if this scaled from the center. Now I know it's probably for visual, so it doesn't cover the controller, but it just means that because you have to sort of compensate by moving this back over. So for instance, you can see there it wants to drag towards the controller, and you just have to move your hand back into position, but it's not a huge deal because you still can control it there manually. So I'll just show another example here, using that cube. Just use this cube. I'll hide this, and this quite high res as well. A voxel remesh to a high enough res, and you can do things like this. So if I switch over to the cube, you can also change your fall off. You can see the inner fall off here. So if I get that inside that fall off box, when I start to drag and I'm twisting with the other controller here, you can see, and I'm letting go, grabbing again, letting go, grabbing again, and I'm twisting with this controller. So things like this, it's impossible to do that on the desktop. And once you get used to using this Move Elastic, you'll find all sorts of uses for it. Another practical use is, I'm going to unhide this. This is a really handy one that I missed coming from Modeler when this wasn't in, before this was added into Shapelab, is to be able to adjust proportions really fast. So say for instance, say I was working on this, I want to make the ear bigger or the eye slightly bigger, slightly smaller. I can just grab around the area. Once I have it grabbed, then I can just push up on the thumbstick, and then just as I said, it's scaling away to the center, so you just have to compensate that for yourself. Push down, push up, and that'll scale it up or down. And then because of the nature of the elastic, it's, you don't even have to mask or blur a mask or anything. It's compensating for all that really smoothly, because I have the fall off here set to 100. So yeah, it's definitely something that has to be that has to be experienced to appreciate. It's just it's, to me, it's one of the best tools since claybrush was invented and added into ZBrush. VR warp or move elastic is just, it's that good, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, I'll leave it at that then.